Good morning, everyone. I'm here to do the What's Cracking and bonus reads. Still on the iPad, but slowly getting unpacked and slowly getting settled. Thank you again for all your support. I know so many of you are glad to see me back. I had a wonderful time yesterday on YouTube, so thank you for those who joined me there. It's always good fun doing that. If you want a personal reading with me, you know that you can go to the website and book your own reading at www.theaussiegoddess.com. I'm still in the throes of moving. I pulled stuff out yesterday to do some additional stuff and the day got away with me. So it's just unfortunate that I'm all over the place at the moment. But bear with me, I will get back into a routine. So we'll still keep going with the dailies this week, and I hope that I can get online maybe over the next few days and do the star sign readings. All right, we have the Hermit jumping out on us here. And I always feel when I see the Hermit, especially for me, it sort of means that perhaps I'm a little overwhelmed or I'm in need of taking a break. Can also sort of talk about taking time out because you're unsure of your direction, or maybe needing time out to really spend time looking inside. So and it's come out here with the Five of Pentacles. There is always an energy with the Five of Pentacles for me. It's probably one of the lower cards that I can really relate to. It is definitely about having a sort of lack mentality. Now, I feel like we all drop into this space, you know, where you have a day where you feel like nothing's sort of going your way, and before you know it, you've spiraled down into a little bit of a bucket. And I say to people, there is nothing wrong with having bad days like that. I feel like it's really necessary sometimes for us to sort of just really take time out, sulk, and be really dissatisfied with what's going on in the world. And I feel like even though, you know, for many of us, when you've done the work that's required and done a lot of healing, those days become less, which is a good thing. It doesn't mean you don't visit them every now and again. And I want to say to you, don't be so hard on yourself when you forget who you are, because I feel like sometimes you've probably spent years in your ego or years being the person you thought you were meant to be. But when you start to realize who you actually are and you do that work on yourself, you sort of start to change how you view your world. But it doesn't mean you don't go back and visit, especially if you've done, 40 years of the old world and only a year of the new world. I think it's very necessary for us to recognize that. Don't get too hard on yourself and kick yourself or beat yourself up because you have a bad day. That's all I'm trying to say. All right, we're going to use the Albino Rider Wake Tarot here for your reading. Okay, and I have the Three of Pentacles coming straight out. Now, the Three of Pentacles for me is a card that talks about, basically about soul contracts, your life path. It can talk about practical stuff such as working on a project or doing something that you're really focused on. Very often this is a team thing, you, somebody else, and a project. This for me is has that real religious feel, and I don't mean religious as in a denomination. I mean religious as in that heartfelt feeling. So there is a real strong feeling here that you are being called to something. You are being alerted to something. You are being awoken to something here. I feel like a lot of you are moving towards what I would see as your true potential, your truth of who you are. And I feel like many of you are on the journey, but this sort of to me feels like you're being called to something. You're being alerted or woken up to a particular thing. Okay, so when we see the Emperor is a card that sort of talks about somebody who is truly standing in their own personal power. This is a person who's well educated, experienced, but knows who they are. Often sort of shows the divine masculine. So you could have a calling towards someone here, or you could feel very drawn towards someone's energy. But it could also be that you are being drawn to step into your own power. as part of your soul's journey here. I just thought of something. Okay, make a note for that for later. So I feel like either you're being drawn to somebody else or you're being drawn to become or to recognize the truth of who you are, your own power, your own energy here. Let's just see where we're going. Okay, and you're closing out. That makes a whole lot of sense to me. All right. When I say religion, I mean the truth of who you are, what you believe in, what you feel, what sort of comes home for you. There is something that needs to be closed out within you, something that no longer serves you, and it's probably all these things I've talked about up front, which is not unusual. It's about closing some parts of yourself that no longer serve you, things that have maybe held you back from sort of seeing your true potential. But you see, I feel like you're being called to that here. So it's like you're right on the borderline of understanding the potential you have, but also releasing other things that no longer serve you with this Ten of Swords. The Ten of Swords for me often sort of talks about negative thinking, negative ways of being, catastrophic thinking, all of the things that we do, all of us do, when we're in that energy of having a bad day. So, you know, you wake up in the morning, you kick your foot on the bed, corner of the bed thing, which I think is one of the most painful things you can do. And you've had a bit of a swear, you get really grumpy, and then the day seems to just hit you with the same things over and over again. That's sort of, for me, the Ten of Swords energy. Or you get the mindset of, this is going to be a really bad day. And then everything starts to snowball. And I always think here, this is where it's good to be the observer. This is where you can stop and say, hang on a moment. So I started off that way. It doesn't mean it's going that way, but you're recognizing your thought pattern. And this may be what you're starting to do to move into this Emperor energy, because I see the Hierophant behind that. And the Hierophant for me, I mean, the card itself talks about large organizations, governments. But for me, it's very much about a traditional way of thinking. And when I say traditional, I mean it feels to me like you've got stuck in some sort of mindset because it was either handed to you or role model to you by somebody else, or you've become accustomed to the way you've done things and now it's become a habit. And the universe is helping you to break this habit and move forward in your truth by understanding your personal power here. And I love this because it's really at the root of it all is about self-love. It's about understanding who you are at the core and loving yourself for who you are, and not being hard on yourself or punishing yourself when things don't go the way you want them to, but being able to say, you know, you didn't get it right this time, or you could have done it differently, but I love you anyway. So that's the sort of energy that's coming through here. Now, you can see here there's been a cycle of dissatisfaction. So I feel like whoever I'm speaking to here, you've probably gone round a few times on this. And maybe you have started to observe it. Maybe you've started to see it and you're saying to yourself, you know, yes, I can be this way sometimes. How do I work my way around that? How do I not get into this rut, this ditch, this bucket of feeling like everything's falling in on me? And I feel like the reason that you're noticing this now is because you are about to embark on a brand new journey. And the Ace of Pentacles confirms that for me. So it may be that with the Ace of Pentacles that you start to notice that you're manifesting. You may start to notice that things come to you much more easily, that you get more opportunities, that life seems to be providing you with things perhaps that you haven't had previously, or things that have been difficult for you to obtain or even maintain. Something huge is coming. Some sort of wave of newness. And I feel like I'm speaking, when I speak to the collective, I feel like I'm speaking to people who've already started to recognize the changes, starting to recognize That nice feeling in the pit of your stomach that sort of makes everything feel like it's moving in the right direction. That feeling of like anticipation or excitement rather than anxiety and distress. And we have that here. And I'm feeling this is what you're tossing up here. Maybe you've started to feel excited about the journey. Maybe you're feeling excited about something that you're starting. It may be a new career. It may be your own business. It could be a new relationship. But something here you are sort of trying to bring into balance. And I feel that is exactly the energy in that mini story. It's like you're trying to understand what was, what could be, and what is here. And there's a definite feeling here that you are trying to balance that out. I look at this, I suppose, minstrel, we would call him, and he's really focused on the one that's at the bottom. So I'm really feeling here that he's turning his back on the more negative aspects and focusing on the more positive ones. And it definitely has something to do with your emotional state, because you see the ocean behind doing those swirls. So, oh, and there she is. And I've been seeing the tower a little bit this week, so I sort of understand that this is a collective energy. And I can guarantee at least 3 people will write to me now and say, wow, I got the tower this morning in my reading. This means that what you have known before, what has been before, and everything that you've built your life on may now be crashing down. And not in a negative way. This is about you discarding those components of yourself that really aren't serving you anymore. So there's a definite feeling here that things are now moving in a slightly better direction. I have to do something, just excuse me. I keep feeling like this is too low, and I thought yesterday I really need to get a box or something to put this on for the time being while I sort out where my frames are, because it feels like it's just too low. I think that's better. All right, so the tower. The tower after the Two of Pentacles very much gives me that feeling that you're deciding here, what do I throw away, what do I keep? What parts of me are really relevant to who I am, who I'm becoming? What parts of me do I want to let go of? Because no matter who you are, there are times when you do things, say things, or recognize things when you think, that's part of who I used to be. And I don't want to do that anymore. We all do it. You know, you have a reaction to something. You may get a little ratty at something. You may get a little disappointed at something. And then you think you've spent a long time trying to adjust to being accepting things the way they are. Or you might find yourself dipping into the past too much after you've learned to live in the moment. Whatever this is for you, it's challenging. It's challenging who you are. You want it to. You're welcoming this in. This tower is very, very welcome here. All right, we have the Death card. Of course we do. One more. Yeah, there we go. So for a lot of you, it is a victim mentality. It's a negative way of thinking. It's being stuck in your head. And I want to share something personal with you here, because I feel like it's extremely relevant and you will understand this. I was always an overthinker. I was terrible. I would get myself into such dilemmas because I couldn't stop thinking about things. And it would drive me mad. It would be 24 hours a day and I would not be able to take my focus off it. And eventually I ended up having what I see probably as a nervous breakdown, or what we would have called a nervous breakdown. But for me, looking back, it was panic disorder. And I started having panic attacks. I really found I would beat myself up over things. I got bullied a lot at work, bullied a lot in the home. I came from a family who were bullies, most of them, if not all of them. And I found that really, really challenging. And I didn't look at myself thinking I was the one that needed to change. I was looking at the world outside of me and thinking this was something that was just happening to me. And then one day you wake up after I had the panic disorder and I came out the other side of it. I kept thinking, like I was offered medication. I was offered all sorts of help for that. And I kept thinking, no, this is something I need to understand why it's happening. And that started me off my journey. And I was around about mid-30s at the time, so it's quite a long time ago. And of course, I worked hard. I did a lot of meditation. I read a lot on why these things happen. And I really understood what my responsibility was in the whole things, rather than looking at everybody else and holding them responsible. I'm not saying they were doing the right thing by any means, but I understood my part in that. And that was really important to my, what I would see as recovery. So over the years, I've learned not to overthink. I've learned how to work with that. I've learned how to calm myself down until it's become such a habit that I live right here, right now. But every now and again, something troubles me and it trips me straight into that old way of being. And I realize after I've been doing it for a little while that even though I've done years of what I would see as making myself a little bit of a better person and a bit more well-adjusted, I'll drop right back into that. And this is what I think everybody's working on at the moment. There is an aspect of yourself here that needs to be left alone. It needs to be let go. It isn't serving you, and somehow or another something is showing you that in the tower. There's an energy here of you needing to, I don't want to say fight back, because it's not about fighting. It's about understanding and accepting. But there's a need for you here to be able to let it go. That needs to be like that. Okay, there we have the Five of Cups. Oh, we're going at it this morning. Devil card over the Tower and the Death card. Loving it. And the Seven of Swords. This is what causes self-sabotage. Because what happens is you get into the mindset of somehow or another it's something that you can't work with. So rather than take the chance, rather than take opportunities, rather than going for things, you sabotage yourself. And that can be in all areas of your life. For many of us, it's relationships. For a lot of us, it's created a lot of disappointment and sadness. But this is what it all comes down to, is the ego. So the ego has to exist. We cannot completely lose an ego. I know sometimes people talk about shedding the ego, but it's more about shedding components of the ego, because most of the ego is a good thing. I mean, seriously, who wants to walk to the edge of a cliff and not be sort of aware of the fact that you could fall off? But you want to be able to walk to the edge of the cliff and understand the danger. Otherwise, your ego is not helping you at all. So there are aspects of our ego that keep us safe, stop us walking out into the middle of traffic, warn us about people who are not really good to be around. Whatever it is, aspects of the ego stay. But the parts of the ego that you do not want to have on your side are things that frighten you or scare you into doing things that are good and right for you. And that can come with change. So this idea of self-sabotage, of cheating yourself out of things, can come through fear, thinking you're not good enough, thinking that you don't have the experience, not taking chances and risks that are healthy for you. They can all come as a part of this ego energy that holds you in place. So for example, if you had a parent who told you you were unable to do something, I always use the astronaut one. You can't be an astronaut. You're not smart enough to be an astronaut. So therefore, every time you get an opportunity, you question, are you smart enough? Because if you're not smart enough to be an astronaut, you may not be smart enough to do anything. And that's the real narcissistic energy we get here. But even though we may have dealt with narcissists, ultimately we carry some of the aspects ourselves. So when we walk away from something, we often have to heal what we call narcissistic fleas. It's because we carry them with us. And sometimes it's really hard to see them because they become so adjusted to your energy that you can't always see how you're doing things. Things like over-responsibility, being judgmental, self-righteousness. And sometimes they become so deeply embedded within us, we don't see them for what they are. We just become accustomed to the way they are until we start to pay attention and observe our behaviours. So there is a definite feeling here of cheating yourself out of things. All right, so we have a Knight of Cups coming through. Ooh, with a Knight of Wands and a Five of Wands together. And the last card here is the Nine of Swords and the Three of Cups. Okay, so I see you taking action here. I see you saying no to something here. Now, for some of you, I could be talking about making changes within yourself, but I can also see you making changes around you, not wanting to be able to become embroiled or invested in things that no longer serve you here. This is a really tough reading this morning, and I feel like I'm going to hit hard for a lot of people. This anxiety, this pain, this pressure, this distress you're causing yourself is definitely something you can work against or heal in yourself. It is something that you have the capacity to do. I feel like here there's a lot of deliberation on how to go about changing those aspects of yourself. And I wouldn't worry, because I feel like here it's coming as a natural thing. It's coming as something that you are realizing at a much deeper level that you have adopted. And I've got to say to you, lots of swords in this reading. So I'm speaking to people who overthink, who are not able to ground themselves in their body. And if it is you going through this and you're listening to this reading thinking, Yvonne, you've hit the nail on the head for me, I want to say to you, the best thing you can do for yourself is learn to ground yourself in your body. And that will get you out of your thinking. Now, you can do that doing sport. You can do it by walking. So you don't necessarily have to meditate. You need to keep your body in balance with your mind. There is a need for you to understand the balance and to be able to shed those things that no longer serve you. I feel like for some of you here, there is someone that you can either speak with or spend time with here that may help you with that. So you may have a good life coach, for example, good counsellor. Some counsellors work with these energies more so than the sort of just progressing the past over and over. Some counsellors are really much more future focused, which is awesome. But there is a really good feeling here that you are being supported by someone, or you're going to be supported by someone. This could be even a lover, it could be a family member, but there is support for you. You've just got to look for it. But what I see here is the out. I see the moving out of this. I see, look at this, that's exactly what I'm seeing. I was about to say I see pain into happiness. So there is definitely a feeling that you are leaving something behind here and learning to embrace your own happiness here. Every time I look at this card, all I see is the sunflowers. But there's a rebirth here. There's a bringing yourself around again. You are remembering the passion. All right, let's just have another quick look and see what's going on. So I feel like you're finding your life path here. It's like you're shedding what's holding you back. There is a feeling here with the Emperor that you are stepping into your own power and releasing the past. More swords. I see you letting go of traditional views and ideas and loving who you are. Some sort of cycle is closing out here, and I can see you refusing to stay with that and making a new beginning for yourself. It's a really very, very deep and heavy reading, but I feel like for some of you this is going to be a welcome, because I feel sometimes when you're in that energy of feeling like, you know, you're not going to get there or you can't attain something, it's the bottom. You're at the bottom and it's only up from here, and that's the Tower energy. So I don't want anybody to hit rock bottom, but I feel like it's sort of that, it's that time when you hit the ground and you realize there's something you need to do. It's about accepting that you have the capacity and not letting the fear hold you back with the Devil energy. All right, let's have a see what this oracle card says. We have the Seas of Mintaka, seeing potential and bringing unconscious to light. I am absolutely floored sometimes by Spirit. I don't really understand how they can bring out the right oracle card for the reading, but I have to say to you, it's rare that I pull out a card that I have to have some understanding of how it relates to a reading. Mintaka is thought to have been a water-based planet containing the most crystal clear waters you could ever imagine, so clear that you could see for miles and miles underwater. The Seas of Mintaka card represents this crystalline clarity of potential and possibility. It's about the ability and choice to see the potential in all situations and people. This could be one of your natural traits, or it could be a sign that what you are currently doing has great potential. Mintakans are thought to have been a galactic race who saw the light in everything and everyone. You may have received this card as confirmation that a situation or project has extreme potential and will reach fruition. If it appears in a spread, it is a very positive sign that things are working out for the highest potential of all involved. It's a very uplifting, light-filled card that brings great harmony, contentment, and positive outcomes. According to Carl Jung, that which we do not bring to consciousness appears in our life as fate. When water appears in dreams and art, it often represents the unconscious mind. Pulling this card also means you may be called to bring to light any unconscious patterns of which you are unaware, to look at them and see them clearly and consciously so they don't appear in your life as fate. What unconscious patterns or behaviours are ready to be brought to the light of day? And that is that Nine of Wands energy. Long reading. Thank you.